Hi, I'm Josh Cadillac, and welcome to my podcast, Know Your Shit. I've been blessed to see great success, as well as seeing the bottom up close and personal in 2008. And if there's one lesson I've learned, is that if you want to have success and differentiate yourself from everyone else out there, you need to know your shit. As a successful real estate and crypto investor and an educator, it drives me insane that people do not immerse themselves in their craft. Everyone is so busy advertising and testing new sales techniques, they forget the most important thing, the product. Here I want to talk to the folks that got this right, the most successful people in the world in every industry. Bring them to you and find out what they learned in their business that made it great. When you listen to my podcast, you will know for sure that the topics and experts we have on have one thing in common. They know their shit. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Know Your Shit podcast, where our knowledge and pride in what we do drives us to be excellent. My name is Josh Cadillac, and I'll be in the driver's seat for today's show as we strive to learn how to stop doing deals and start closing for life. We have a great show for you today. Without further ado, let's get started. Today, I'm joined by an incredible guest, Mr. Michael Burt. Mike, thanks so much for being with us, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited. Great podcast name.
I appreciate it. Well, hopefully the rest of the podcast lives up to the name, right?
A lot of people don't know their shit. That's why I think that's why I like it.
The vast majority of people don't. And the thing is, it just makes things so much easier when you do. Yep. Then why would you ever not? It's one of the big things like I kid people about is everybody's so busy trying to figure out how to hack life. I got a hack for you. Do the work. Actually know what you're talking about, and makes life so much easier than trying to get the hacks done.
Yeah, I call it demonstrating capacity. Most people just don't have that long obedience in the same direction to really master anything. So they kind of dabble with things versus decide. So they really never become experts at anything.
It's true. It's true. People have 1 foot in the door and 1 foot out the door, as opposed to actually committing to doing something in a meaningful way, to truly giving themselves to it and trying to figure out whether or not it's what they're here to do. And that matters. So let me ask you this, Mike, rather than me trying to do a halfway job of it, try to explain what I know of what you do. Let me ask you the question. Why don't you tell everybody what it is you do?
Well, I'm really a specialist at activating what I call the prey drive in a person, PREYDRIVE. An animal has a prey drive. It's an animal's ability to stalk, capture, and kill prey. So I basically spent the last 30 years of my life, first as a championship women's basketball coach, studying the psychology of how to get a person to a higher frequency for a decade. And then I parlayed that into a business coaching career to build a multi-million-dollar coaching company. And that is my special area, which is helping a person find and activate that drive that could be dormant, latent, undeveloped, and then play at a much higher frequency. And that's really what my new book, Flip the Switch, is all about, which is how you do that. And a lot of people don't know how to do that. And so that's kind of my specialist area.
Love it, man. I talk so much to people about the idea of getting out of themselves all that they're capable of, because we all know, I don't care how high functioning you are, we all know in our heart of hearts that we get less out of ourselves than we're capable of. And so, tapping into that, the first thing for me always when I talk to people is getting them to recognize that, is that idea of like, hey, look, you do realize that you're giving yourself a whole hell of a lot less than you're capable of, right?
Right.
I do it as a question. I sit there and say, do you feel like you're doing all you could, or are you selling yourself short? And people are on the fence. Well, I don't. Well, is there a better version of you inside of you you've never seen before? Oh, well, yeah. No, I guess you're right. And so how do we get that out? And so I love this stuff. I talk about this all the time, probably too much, but it's such an important stepping stone to take and go on to great things, I think. So it's awesome that you're in that space. So let me ask you this. Let's maybe start at the beginning. What got you started doing this?
What got me started is I was a young basketball coach. I actually was at a major high school in Tennessee at 19 years old. While I was in college, I became the youngest head coach in the state of Tennessee at the second largest high school. And I took really over, Josh, a place that didn't know how to win. And they had gone 30 years without winning. And so I became a deep disciple of Covey. I learned how to activate the whole person, body, mind, heart, and spirit. I was doing things back in the early 2000s that nobody was doing. And so I quickly began to win. And the more I won, the more I kind of built this national powerhouse that we're going to win 7 of 9 championships in the state of Tennessee. people begin to notice when you do big things. And so I was constantly getting asked the question, what are you doing with those kids? And so I said, I don't have time to explain it. So that actually started my book writing process. I wrote the first of 17 books when I was 25. And I began, getting out into the business world, speaking and coaching. And the more I got out and coached adults, the more I enjoyed it. And I go, you know what? I think I could do this. I think I could do this. So at 31, I retired from athletic coaching. Remember, I'd been there since 19. So it wasn't like I'd been there a long cycle. And then this was in 08. And this was right in the middle of the recession of 08. And big real estate teams were hiring me. Big home builders were hiring me. Mortgage companies were hiring me. And I was basically going in as a hired gun to help get performance out of their people in a very miserable time in our economy. And that's how I started this business. Signed on the corporate coaching assignments, mostly 6-figure contracts. And I would come in and they would say, here's your people. Good luck. Keep them motivated, teach them how to sell, bring all the strategy. And I did that for 3 to 5 years before I started branching out and building individual coaching programs, boot camps, retreats, really got into the individual side of coaching people, not one-to-one, so to speak, but more where people could sign up and be coached by me versus just corporations.
Makes sense. No, I mean, that's where it's, and having done some coaching myself, you've obviously done more than I have, but I think that there's a big difference between the person that is kind of made to come to you for coaching versus the person that identifies for themselves, hey, you know what, I need to do something different.
That's right. Yeah. I think that's a big problem of why I got out of a lot of corporate coaching, is because companies would hire me to coach people who didn't want to get better. Yeah. Who didn't want to coach. And it was like going into a war zone every day where I was trying to motivate people who basically had satisfied needs. And when in the new book, Flip a Switch, I took the top 20 motivational theories. I deconstructed those theories. I codified those theories. And I said, here's a new way to talk about motivation that's never been talked about before, is that person has a prey drive. Well, when I studied those theories to write this book, it became clear to me that people move toward things they want. And if they don't want anything, they're not motivated to do anything. So how do you get a person to want a bigger life? Well, you expose them to a bigger life. You show them what a better life could look like. Exposure is an activator of prey drive. Competition is an activator of prey drive. Fear is an activator of prey drive. But also I noticed this: satisfied needs never motivate, only unsatisfied needs. So when a person is satisfied, making good money, they got a good life, why would they be motivated to want more? And so this is why people have complacency. This is why people reach a certain level and quit. This is why people don't win back-to-back championships. This explains a lot about why people get to a certain income level and get lazy, right? It's because all of their basic needs are met.
Sure. And so I've thought about that actually for a long time. I kind of call it the misery factor. They're not miserable enough with where they are. Like, they're miserable enough to complain about it, because even people that don't have needs, they still complain about where they are and they want more, but they're not miserable enough to actually motivate them to do something about it. So I come about it from the other way. Maybe it's a little bit more of a negative person than you are.
Well, think about it this way. There's what's called a defensive pessimist, and there's a strategic optimist. The defensive pessimist is not negative. They just mentally rehearse everything that could go wrong in their mind.
Sure.
So I'm actually a defensive pessimist. Although I'm a positive person, I write positive books. I am actually more motivated by losing than I am of winning. And so I hated losing more than I like winning as a basketball coach. And what I've done is I've learned to mentally rehearse things that could go wrong. Strategic optimist shows up and thinks, man, it's all going to work out. It's all going to be positive. It's all going to be good. This is how some people are. There's not right or wrong. It's just Saban is a defensive pessimist. A lot of top people are defensive pessimists. So it's just part of their personality style of that. They're actually more motivated by what's called mental subtraction, mentally losing something of value to them, than motivated by capturing something positive. That's why they don't celebrate long. They can have $50 million in their bank account and they go to bed tired and they wake up hungry. To them, it all goes to zero at midnight.
I love it. I had somebody actually point this out to me a ways back. There was a gal that I dated, and I finished writing my first book. And, I had the book out, like I finally, like it was all codified and all done.
Yep.
And I was like, all right, so I have to do this and she looked at me and she said, stop, you wrote a book, take yourself to dinner, like have a little bit of a party. And And there's this place of constantly shooting for more, feeling like you got to make hay while the sun shines, and almost this little bit of fear
Yeah.
that if I let myself slip, if I give myself an inch, I'm afraid enough of myself that maybe I'll take the mile. Like I'll go back to being that lazy little kid that I used to be if
Yeah.
I give myself too much, because I believe in having that healthy fear of the lesser version of me that is constantly trying to gain ground and work its way back into my life.
Well, fear is probably the number one activator of prey drive. And that's why I have certain philosophies like, right, go to bed tired, wake up hungry. It all goes to zero at midnight. There comes a time when winter asks what you did all spring and summer. It's going to be a fight, but we're going to find a way to win. And see, I coach a lot of mortgage, real estate, people who have become lazy in good times and they got away from the practice of doing the things they need to do to win. And that's what I learned from being a coach. Doesn't matter if you won on Tuesday night. If you get lazy, you get beat on Friday night. And that's embarrassing. Embarrassment is an activator of prey drive. So when you look at what activates a person's drive, for you, fear may be the number one, right? Or fear of losing something. So that's why I've used that mental subtraction. I take something that I love. I'm at my beautiful house here in Florida. I've got a beautiful house in Florida and we live in Tennessee. And my wife loves it and I love it. And it's beautiful this time of year. And here's the deal. I wake up every morning and go, what if I had to sell this house? What if I had to give this up because I didn't hit my sales numbers? What if I don't go out there and produce like I do? See, that fear activates my drive. Okay. Now a lot of people say, well, just find your why, find your purpose. Well, I can know my purpose. I'm going to refute that for a second because chapter 3 of this new book, Flip the Switch, is called Screw Your Why. And,
I love it.
and let me tell you why. I've coached people for 30 years. I do not think if you just find your purpose, everything's going to work out. I actually believe you can know your purpose and still not be motivated. Okay. I can know that I'm supposed to coach and still not want to coach people today. So I believe in what's called because goals. And a because goal is a big reason to do something when you don't feel like it. Because I grew up poor, I never wanted to go back to being poor. Because my dad wasn't involved in my life, I made up my mind I was going to be a good dad to my kids. Because a coach changed my life, I made up my mind. See, a because goal is more immediate to me than just knowing my purpose. Okay. That activates my drive to want to go into battle because I love this house. I don't care if you use something that's material to motivate you or your past to motivate you. Because I love this house, I'm going to get up and go into battle today and sell something.
I love it, man, because this is very much what I've come at from a different angle, which is kind of this idea of you have to be ruthless with yourself as the CEO of your life, as the person that's responsible. I have to figure out how I'm going to motivate me, the employee, to go out and do the work that I need to do.
Right.
And that means I have to be a good boss to myself. Right. And a good boss, a good coach takes and figures out, hey, this guy is this kind of a guy, and this is what's going to make this guy go. So how do I take and turn that thing that makes him go up to 11 so I can show him he can get out of himself something he didn't even realize that tank could do? That tank is way bigger and way deeper than he ever knew it could be. And so, and this is especially when it comes to, I've trained people in the gym, both men and women. And it's always interesting to me, the difference in how you have to do that. And because there's just, bell curve wise, just a little bit different how you got to handle them. With guys, I can sit there and I can tear them. I could sit there and question their masculinity. I could shred them. And there's this little voice inside them that's like, oh yeah, let me show you.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what works. It's the same kind of thing. It's this idea of figuring out what works. How can I get out of me when I need to? And I love what you're talking about because it actually rings to me of Stoicism, of the ancient Stoics and the way that they approach life, which is they actually took this approach that seems very negative to most people. They thought about things from the standpoint of, what if I lost this?
Yeah.
And so like a guy would say, look, if my son, I think about every day, what it would be like if he was to die.
Right.
And everybody's like, oh my God, why would you put that burden on yourself? And the answer was, because it makes me love him more fully in the moment and appreciate every day that I have him.
Yeah. I think to your point, when I wrote this book, a lot of things activates a person's drive. And my editor kept saying, is it all negative? Why is it all negative? Can it be positive? And I said, well, a few years ago, I had a lot of conflict. I had some bad business partners. Everybody's going to go through this at some point, get really screwed by somebody you trusted. And so what I did during that period of time is I studied conflict. And what I realized by studying conflict, how to handle major conflict. There's not a lot written about this, right? The Bible doesn't talk a lot about conflict. There's not a lot on how to handle conflict. And so the more I studied it, the more I realized that real emotion, real passion comes from conflict. Okay. When you have really been screwed over, you got a lot of passion. When you really think somebody says you're not good enough, when somebody makes fun of you, when somebody tries to tell you can't do something, see, that is actually fuel that can activate a person's prey drive if they know how to convert it. So a slight, a judgment, a feeling of rejection, something where you feel like you're not quite good enough. This will activate a prey drive in a person to find what I call a freakish level of success.
Yeah.
And uncommon. So that's why I went back to the editor and I said, the truth is that conflict produces emotion. Emotion produces this conviction and passion. And if it takes you having to show somebody else that you're really good to activate your prey drive, then so be it. See, as a coach, I don't care. I just want to find that gear that right, like you with your students in the gym. It's like, I got to find a gear because this guy don't know how to work out hard. Or he reaches a level and he contracts, or he tells me one thing but does another. So to me, this is the fascinating part of studying prey drive, not only in animals, but also in humans, to see something and then to really pursue it with an intensity that a lot of people just don't have.
No, and I mean, it so makes sense. This is another phenomenon that I've noticed before. You break up with somebody that you're crazy about, and or they break up with you, and you have two options, man. You could throw the sweats on and take and do your best to keep Ben and Jerry's in business, right? Or you can throw the sweats on and say, I'm going to make that the worst decision she's ever made. Use that to take it and drive you to take and accomplish more than you can. Because once again, you're right, that those strong emotions, that fuel, that's rocket fuel, man. That's that high octane, 108 octane good stuff you can put in there. We can take and push a whole lot more boost to the supercharger for running that stuff. And so, having that there, I've seen it, I've lived it, I've talked about it before, and I love the fact that in your experience you're seeing the exact same things, because in my own life I know that has been the times when I've been in the best shape of my life, when I've had the most business I can fully commit. I work the 11-12 hours a day, and it doesn't matter. I got to go do something. I got to get it done. I got to turn that fuel into something positive. So let me ask you this, man, kind of getting back to what you do a little bit. What do you like best about it, Mike?
I like coaching people in a boot camp style. I have this big lodge in Tennessee. It's about 8,000 square foot. People come in from all over the country and spend 2 days with me. I like teaching people, how to activate that drive. But then the second step is I love teaching people monetization of a concept. I mean, I think that is really one of my gifts, is I can package a concept, deliver a concept in a way. So codify it, package it, deliver it, and then monetize it. And I feel like that's where a lot of people struggle, is they can't figure out, there's a stat that says there's 700,000 coaches in the United States, or people who call themselves a coach. The average income of those coaches is about 47,000 a year. And what that tells me is they don't know how to package a concept. They don't know how to market a concept. They don't know how to sell a concept. So I sum all of that up into monetization. I love teaching people how to package an idea and go make millions of dollars with that idea in a way they want to do that. So I think that's fun to me. And I do that through boot camps and workshops and private events, intimate settings, things like that. So that's a lot of fun to me.
Awesome. And so it kind of ties in with the next question I had for you. What do you think makes you good at this thing?
Demonstrated capacity. I think I am a true expert at this. I mean, this is what I've been doing since I was a kid. For the last 30 years, I have a deep well of expertise in getting people to higher frequencies, whether it be in the business world or the athletic world. It's just what I've studied my whole life. It's what I know. A lot of people ask me, why don't you do this? Or why don't you do this? Or why don't you do this? I don't know those things. I know how to do this. Okay. And and I know how to coach people to perform at a higher level. Okay. That's what I know how to do, whether it be teams, individuals, kids. We do a couples retreat. We're about to do couples down here at our house this week. And I'm telling you, these couples come and one's typically dominant and driven, one is not. And by the time we're finished, the one that's not, it's like, boom, let's go do this. So it's just, you give me a group of people and I can get them to a higher level of frequency.
That's awesome. It's a great skill, great life skill to have. So
Yeah.
what are the most important things or thing that you've learned in the process of doing what you do? If you wanted to summarize it, what is the big thing that you've learned?
Two things. One is human nature. And human nature is to start with good intention and to fall off the wagon and then experience guilt. The other is business models. I think the vehicle you choose becomes very important as you age and you start going, okay, can this business model get me to my financial goals? Is it too dependent on me? The vehicle really matters that people get into. It's like a single real estate agent that thinks that they can get to a certain level of income. Or if a coach builds a coaching business, this is why you see me involved in insurance companies, percentage of other companies, commercial real estate plays, because the vehicle of coaching is a very difficult business model to be in every day.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. So what do you think makes you so passionate about what you do?
I think I had a big revelation when I was really young. I was raised by a single mom, and she took me down to local baseball field when she was working a couple jobs. And it was really a coach that raised me a lot. So I was on a ball field with the coach from the time I was 4, 5, 6 years old. And I observed at a very early age how coaches really tended to other people's potential. They were stewards of that potential. They helped push, they helped challenge, they really helped people grow up. And so because I had that big revelation and that so early in life, I've had a deep conviction since I was young that everybody needs a good coach in their life. Everybody needs a person who will challenge. Everybody needs a person who will push. Everybody needs a person who will create attention. And really, it's all I've ever known, to be honest with you. I can't cook. I'm geographically illiterate. I can't fix a car. There's a lot of things I can't do at all. But you give me a group of people and you say, coach these people, and I can do this. And so I think that passion comes from the transformation I see, the stories I hear, the results we get, it's over and over and over and over and over because we're coaching thousands of people now. And so, I think that's why I'm so passionate about it.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing that you love what you do and that you can see it work and that you found, what you're built to do. That's great stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a two-parter here. What are you most proud of in business that you've accomplished?
I think I'm most proud of going from a high school basketball coach to building, a multi-million-dollar company. I'm most proud of being on some of the biggest stages. I think the new book's going to be a Wall Street Journal bestseller.
Awesome, man.
I'm proud of that because it's taken me 17 books of grind. I think I'm proud of the consistency that I've had over a long cycle of time. And I think people who watch me every day, that's one of the number one things they say to me is, man, just thank you for showing me work ethic. Thank you for showing me consistency. Thank you for showing me how to really play at a higher level. Cause I didn't know how to do that until I saw you. So I think that's what I'm most proud of.
Awesome. And so let's flip it to maybe behind the curtain a little bit. Same question. What are you most proud of in life that you've accomplished?
I think being a dad to 3 kids, being a husband and 3 kids, the way I'm wired, to be honest with you, Josh, I'm wired to work. I could work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's just who I am as a person. So I have to, I measure progress, not perfection. And, every day I take a walk with my daughter at 8 a.m. We get out and walk and talk. This morning we were talking about why do people become demotivated. She's 10 years old. We have a 14-week-old daughter and we have a 2.5-year-old son. And, I think I'm proud of learning how to be a good dad. I didn't always have good role models in that area when I was growing up. So I think that's a learned skill for me, just how to get up and think about other people every day versus think about your work. And so I'm progressing. I'm not there, but I'm progressing.
I don't know how you feel about this, but I talk about that idea of perfection because I deal with a lot of people that tell me they're perfectionists.
Yeah.
I tell them perfection is a trap.
It is.
It is a place for you to go. It is a built-in excuse for why you don't produce.
Right.
I want to get it perfect. You know what? I strive for excellence. Excellence is, I think, a much better place I do the best thing I can in the time that I allot myself to do it, and it goes out the door. because I got other things I got to get done. It's a big, beautiful world that needs tending to.
Yeah, perfectionism breeds procrastination. The perfectionist wants everything to be perfect before they get started. That is the problem with writing books, like you were talking about. Is as soon as you write the book, there's more to add to it. So a perfectionist never turns it in, never finishes it, because the minute you turn it in, you're going to read it and go, you know what, man, I should have written this, I should have written this, I should have done this, I should have done this. So perfectionism. I'm a person of action. Doesn't have to be 100% there. If it's 80% there, I'm 100% happy. And I move quick. I come up with ideas and I implement ideas, and I move with frequency and force with those ideas. So to me, it's never going to be perfect. And I think that's a big problem for a lot of people.
I could not agree. I see it a lot in my coaching all the time, and it's definitely a thing. Moving away from that, pursuing a life of excellence, a life where things get done, where the world is getting changed in a big and meaningful way, in the best way that I have available to me at the time. I'm not the same guy I was 5 years ago. I couldn't do some of the things that I did. I couldn't have written this current book 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But you know what? Today, it was the best thing I could turn out at the time. I sent it over to the editors. I'm sure they're going to have plenty of stuff to say to me about it. And when they do, we'll address it. But you know what? They know what the hell they're doing. I'm just a guy sitting here getting my ideas down on some paper. So let's take and turn something into them and get everybody working on it.
Yeah, exactly.
So how about this? If you had to take and break it down to one thing, have you ever seen the movie John Q?
It's been a minute. Yes, it's been.
There's a scene in there where the father's thinking about taking his own life so that they can give the kid his heart. And so he's got that moment with his son where he's trying to take and tell him like all the lessons that he's going to miss out on now as a dad going forward. He's, like, you be good to your mom. If you ever take a girl out there, you treat her like, if you had to break it down to one thing from all the stuff you've picked up in your coaching, what one piece of advice would you give our listeners?
Focus on the ambitions of other people. And as long as you get lost in other people's dreams, you'll always have a way to make money. You'll always have a way to prosper, right? And if you think about, as long as there's problems, as long as people have ambitions, you'll always have an opportunity to help other people. And I think a lot of people get caught up in a lot of other things. I mean, that is true confidence, knowing that you can help other people move from A to B in their life. That makes you incredibly valuable. Everybody's got a problem that you can solve, and everybody's got an ambition you can help them with. And if you locate those two things and it's focused solely on those two things, man, you'll always have opportunity in the world.
Yeah, it's a valuable thing. It's a valuable resource, valuable commodity that everybody's trying to chase. And
100%.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. So as a guy, like I love it, Michael, because I talk to you, I hear a lot of my own, what I like to call my own crazy in there, always working, always something else to do. I've already got, 3 or 4 other projects on the books. I'm just talking to somebody earlier today, and it just gave me an idea for what is probably going to be the next book. And this book's not even done being edited. Right. So let me ask you, Mike, because I'm sure you got one. What's next for you? What's the next project? What's the next big thing that's on the horizon for you?
There's 2 big things I've got. Number one, this book's coming out January 31st. I'm right in the middle of a big campaign to try to make that a Wall Street Journal bestseller. Right. So every person that watches this, that buys the book, it's helpful. Every individual unit sold is helpful to everything, right? So number one, that's very important. Flip the switch. You get it on Amazon. And we're giving away a lot of things when you purchase the book. 2 days with me, free for $26. So it's a heck of a deal to go get the book and understand the psychology. Number two, I'm building, got about a $7 million project in downtown Nashville called the Greatness Factory. Awesome. And this is a place you can learn, grow, work, connect. It's a state-of-the-art facility where people can work there. It's got podcast studios. It's got state-of-the-art auditorium, incredibly cool dining hall to have dinners. It's got, everything from coffee shop to, it's just a place you go if you want to be great, right? And it's a place where every member gets access to my coaching. So there's events every month. So it's a place you work. So that project is about to go into construction literally in the next couple of weeks. Should be out in May of 2023, called the Greatness Factory. Right. I joke and say across the street will be the Complacency Factory. So you can, I may make more money with that one than the Greatness Factory, but
probably,
but nonetheless. And then I've got the other piece of it is I've got the Success Schools for Kids, which are 6-week performance academies with children via Zoom. They have certified coaches that coach them on the habits of the top 1% of performers. Then those kids come to a boot camp with me at the lodge. And that kind of taps into my early days of being a successful basketball coach. So I'm doing stuff for kids. We're doing couples retreats down here right now at our house in Florida. Then we got this cool greatness factory going on, and there's some big projects, man. Those are the big things I got going on right now.
All those the greatness factory sounds like a nice hothouse for people that want to take and really see what they're capable of. That's a very good idea. I've always been fascinated with the idea of figuring out exactly what I'm capable of, how much I can really squeeze out of what I got, you know?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Everybody should be, but exposure, see, with your personality style, that's who you are, right? And unfortunately, that's not who everybody is. And so what many people need to activate that drive in them is exposure to somebody, a better life. Their wantingness never gets activated. So they literally just settle for the life they have. And until they meet somebody, see something. You know, I was fortunate to be around coaches at 18. I was speaking at 15 years old. I went to a Broy Hill Leadership Academy when I was 15. It turned me on to leadership. But it all started with a mentor telling me I needed to do something, buy this book, go to this, get around this. And then it just activated my drive to be right. And then when I spoke on stages like 10X, or I'm doing, Family First in February, 20,000 people at Lone Depot Stadium in Miami.
Nice.
These things, it's hard. I could pick up the phone today and call some of the biggest people in the world because of these stages and relationships I built with these people. And, I was just a high school basketball coach. And that's really what I want to leave people with is I want to encourage them to understand, man, if I could go from a high school basketball coach to where I am today doing these things, you can. The people out there listening to this podcast can do it, but it doesn't come easy.
No.
Right. And you do have to have this demonstrated capacity. And if you don't build the demonstrated capacity, then you never become the expert to make the big money. I mean, that's just the way it works, man.
I learned early on, and I can kind of remember almost a moment when it became clear to me. I played sports. I played football in school, and I love football. And the thing is, I was fast. I could run, but I remember one day, for some reason, they had me playing defense, which is never a particularly great move for me. I was not the most gifted on defense, and I had wound up in a pattern having to cover a guy that standing still had to be 6'7".
Yeah.
And he had the longest arms I'd ever seen. At the particular pass that was thrown was high for this guy. He jumped to get it, and I remember looking up and seeing this guy go get this ball and thinking, I would need a ladder and a rocket ship to do anything about him catch. There's nothing I could do. So for me to have a place on this field, I'm going to have to outwork this guy because God knows on the natural skills level, all I can do is wait for him to come down and do something about it then, because there's just nothing I can do. And so at that point, I had to commit to working harder than everybody else because I didn't have a lot of the natural gifts that a lot of other people did. And so if I wanted this thing, I had to push hard. But you know what? At the same time, Michael, I can tell you this, I was a lazy little kid, man. Yeah. When I started out, it was a war with myself most of my life. I was easy to be overweight. It was easy to do and so I know that every day when I get up, like you said, you wake up hungry. I wake up hungry, and I wake up every day knowing it's going to be a fight.
100%.
But every day I'm trying to set a pattern. I'm trying to take and build my win record. Because when you build up that pattern of winning against yourself, you start to brand yourself in your own mind as a winner. You're the kind of person that wins against themselves. When these battles come between me and myself, the battle to take and to do the things I'm supposed to do or the things that I want to do. When I have that pattern of being a winner to myself, it's that much easier to keep that win streak going.
100%.
And so I think there's quite a bit to be said. And I don't know if you agree with this. I mean, I'm putting this to you as the expert, but there is kind of a lot to be said to that momentum factor of winning and winning against yourself. Does that ring true?
Well, momentum is energy, and it's headed in a direction, right? It's either headed in a positive direction or a negative direction. Games and sports are typically won and lost based on momentum. You can win the whole game and then lose momentum in the last few minutes of a game. I've done that before. Or you can gain momentum. Well, life, the way you gain momentum is through action. You never gain momentum through inertia, through sitting, through being stagnant, by contracting. You only gain momentum by moving. It's like currency, right? And the more you move, the more momentum you have. Typically, the better luck you have, the more luck breaks you have. And so a lot of people that is prey drive. Prey drive is instinct to pursue. It's not instinct to sit. The lion goes into the jungle, kills the prey, or they don't feed the family at night. And that's what more people need in America is they need more drive to get up and initiate, especially when markets are tough. You need to be bumping more people, talking to more people, contacting more people, like banging on more people. That's what you should be doing right now, not whining. So, that's the coach in me going, suck it up, Buttercup. Let's go.
I love it. That was one of my favorite things. I'm a big Yankees fan. My father actually had box seats at Yankee Stadium for he was at Don Larson's perfect game in the World Series. I mean, like a hardcore Yankee family. And Joe Torre talking about the 98 Yankees. And he said, this team had a 20-game lead in the American League East, and they'd lose a game and they'd come in the next day angry.
Yep.
They were pissed that they lost. And so they never let complacency be there. I mean, you look at guys like Derek Jeter and Paul O'Neill, guys that went in there and always hungry, always looking to do that thing to take and either gain the momentum or keep the momentum in their favor. And they never gave anything away. And there's just something to that hunger, that appetite that I'm not going to give any inch. These are the guys. When I look at the guys that, to be like, I love Paul O'Neill. Why? Because if he had it to give, he would give it every single time. And he showed up every single day.
Yeah.
So, but let me ask you this. What do you do? I mean, as a guy that loves to work, what do you do to unwind, Michael?
I do enjoy unwinding, and I do enjoy days with no coaching. When you coach as many people as I do, I enjoy. I'm a creative, right? I love being in creative places. That's why I have a house in Florida. As I love just being able to create and do nothing. I call it creative loafing. So I listen to podcasts, I exercise, it's just, to me, no schedule is fun. Like not having a schedule is fun. Now, I don't have any hobbies. I don't play golf. So hobbies to me are traveling, enjoying some of the properties we have around the country, doing what I want when I want. I mean, that is hobby. Reading is a hobby to me. I like reading. I like studying great people. So those are things that I do when I'm off, and I do take typically one day off a week, where I just chill out and do whatever I want to. But typically I work 6 days a week.
Gotcha. So good stuff. Last question I have for you. Actually, I'm gonna do this in a couple of people. Besides your book, which everybody get his book, no questions asked. Get his book. And the name of the book again, one more time for everybody.
Flip the Switch. They can get it on Amazon. Coach Michael Burt. Yep, it's in pre-order right now. But if you will purchase the book and send us the receipt at support@coachburt.com, we actually give you 2 days of free coaching. 2 big events I do, you get completely free. One in December, one in January. One's coming up next week. So if you go ahead and get the book now and pre-order, get that, you get 2 full days with me. And it's well worth the 2 days. Trust me.
Good stuff. Complete modesty there, but saying, guys, you're going to do all right. Michael, how about this? I've never asked anybody this question, but I think it's one that's worthwhile. If you had to recommend one book that wasn't your book to somebody that was a game changer for you, what would it be?
I'm going to throw people for a loop here. And there's a book that I read over and over and over that's not highly publicized. It's a book called Total Cash Confidence by a guy named Dan Sullivan, who founded Strategic Coach. I was in that program for many years. And he wrote a book called Total Cash Confidence that really was a game changer for me. And it's a sales book without being a sales book. And what it gets you to do is really constantly focus on other people's dreams and ambitions. And if you will stay focused there, you will always have a chance to make money. And that's what he's calling Total Cash Confidence. So this is one that I go back to and just read over and over and over and over and over. Now, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People changed my life when I was, 18, 19 years old. A lot of books have changed my life. But one that's very practical outside of mine is the Total Cash Confidence, because every salesperson needs to know how to go out and generate money. And the way you generate money is by locating problems and solving those problems. And that gives you confidence. And see, this is where your skill, when you and I are talking in the very beginning, the skill is the ability that you bring to the problem. And the more skilled you are, the more money you make, because your skill solves my problem, and money changes hands when problems are solved.
Absolutely. No, that is identifying the problem and being the solution to that problem. I love it, man. That is awesome. So very last question.
Mhm.
Where can people find you?
CoachBurt.com, CoachBurt.com. They can find me on YouTube, Coach Michael Burt. I have, I don't know, 1,800 videos. TikTok, Real Coach Burt. I think Real Coach Burt, and Instagram, Michael Burt, Coach Michael Burt. But I put out a lot of content. I do morning videos, morning drives every day. That goes to YouTube. So, man, I'm a content machine when it comes
Good
to just
stuff.
helping people. So
Love
search
it.
Coach Michael Burt. If you want to do something with me, coach, speak at something, then I'm open for hire.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, Michael, I want to say thank you for your time, sir. I mean, I know you're a busy guy, got a million things going on. So thank you for coming and spending some time with us, and for helping the listeners here with your wisdom.
You got it, bud. Thanks for having me, Josh. You a good
Thank
man.
you.
See you guys.
Appreciate it. See ya.
Bye-bye.